This is lesson 2.
Okay.
One says open a notepad. So I'll go here and this is my notepad on Windows 11. So I'll click on it. Okay. So here is our notepad. Now the notepad is open. And so, same thing, and it's a text file, not a Word document. And then it says, write a very simple program with only one line of code. And the code is print hello world. So I'm going to write print, which is a built-in program, built-in function in Python language, which takes a string and spits it out back to you on the display. So this is our entire program, right?
Yeah.
It has only one line. Usually you have more than one line. And now I'm supposed to save it. Let's see, what does this next slide tell us? It says, save it in the working directory. Working directory is where Spyder IDE stores it. So we'll just store it. Go ahead and save this. Save as, let's call it example 1, and we're gonna lose the usual extension of text files txt2 and switch it with py. That stands for Python. And now we need to save it not here, but we go to C drive up here, and then we go to users and Ali. This is the working directory that I was talking, that this slide was saying. This is where Python can find it and execute it. So our source code is our source code, our program is stored in this text file, and it's called example1.py. And I have just saved it there. Now, if you go back here, there it is. It just showed up. And we just saved it. It's 11:56. All right. So now that we've saved that, I want to run this file, execute this source code, my Python program stored in example1, so that it can print hello world back to me on the display. So let's see, what does the next slide tells us? We're now ready to use the Python compiler, which is called python.exe. You don't have to write exe. So let's go get ourselves, let's go find a place where we can write python.exe, give it this program as an input. So we need to go and do all of this. So let's go to command prompt again. Here's our command prompt. Let's see. So notice we're not, since my path is set up, I can write python.exe.
Okay.
I don't have to write exe, but I'm just doing it. So we've been using the interactive session in the last lesson, and here we are calling on the compiler itself. This thing is called Python application program. This is a program, just like a program can take numbers as an input, the Python compiler takes code written in Python as an input. And in this case, we're going to feed it this source code stored in this text file. So I'm going to write example1.py, because look at users Ali. If you go to, in other words, Python compiler has access to this file because it is being called from the same place where the file is. Okay. So when I hit enter, Python.exe is going to see this as a file with a text file with an extension py, and it will say, hey, I can work with this. It will then go in, take this line and execute it.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and do that. As soon as I hit enter, example1 will become an input to this program.
Don't you need to put example1.py though?
Yeah, example, oh, sorry, good save there, because we're going to have an error. Example1, which is what I'm calling it, example1.py will become an input to this program, Python, the compiler, and it's not the interpreter, but it's the other program. And then, bam, it will print out the display right there. So that's one way to do this, right? Okay, so another way to do this is, if I wrote this, this is the same line of code that was stored in our text file. Will this work? No, because we're still in the command prompt. Command prompt does not read Python code. So if I hit enter, it's going to say, hey, what was that about? Unable to initialize device PRN. It thinks it thinks I'm trying to give it some. How can I run that code here? I could type this, and if I hit enter and not give this, actually, let's run this again. What's going to happen? Hello world will be displayed. In other words, I called upon, and it's in lowercase this time, doesn't matter. It doesn't have exe. I'm actually calling the same Python application program. I'm giving it my source code stored in a text file with the extension py, and Python compiler goes, yeah, I know this is a text file that has Python language code in it, and I can execute that. I will execute this line, print hello world, and send it back, display it to the user in the command prompt. And there you go. Now, if I do this, and I don't have an input into the Python application program, which is what this is, or what this is, if I don't have example1 py, when I'm not feeding it a source code, print hello world, saved in a text file with the extension py, it will, when I hit enter now, Python goes, oh, okay, there's no input. That means the user wants me to start the interactive session in Python with the user. And so
Okay.
you're going to see this happening. You're going to get those three elbows right there.
All right.
Angle. All right. So that's what happens here. Now let's keep going here. So in other words, when we are using the compiler, when we're using an IDE, we're always using these files, places where we store code. Now let's go on. Here we have the image of the Spyder IDE. And so I'm going to pull that up. So here is my, so it's taking a little while. Here we go. So I'm opening my Spyder program, and I'm going to do cancel. I don't know how to get rid of that. And here is our Spyder IDE, and it is called Integrated Development Environment. And it allows us to, so let me see, I'm going to delete all of this. There we go. Actually, I can go here and say, hey, I want to open a new file. Okay, so I just did that. and it opened up a brand new file. It doesn't have a title yet, but it has a .py. And you see where it's going to store it? It's going to store it in the same working directory where because previously this is what I've done. I'd open a text, my text program, and wrote my Python code in it and saved it in this directory. Here, my Spyder IDE is going to do all of that for me. So I'm going to say print messed up world. And I'm going to now save this file. Save as. And I'm going to save it as example 2 and
.py.
.py, right? Very good. And this is the right directory because I think it is the right place. So here we go. And now it has saved example 2 py in users Ali.
Okay.
I can now do this. I can go back. All right. Now I use the Spyder IDE, Integrated Development Environment, and saved it and created a text file with one line of Python code, which reads print messed up world. So now I'm going to call the Python application program and give this example2.py, which contains this. So do the code in this and do what it's saying. And it says, please print this out on the display. So I hit this and there it shows up. Okay. But this is all very foolish because in fact, we don't do that. What we're going to do is we are going to use the IDE to execute this program, and the result will show up here in the right bottom window right here. This is our text console. It's called the IPython. So this is where the result of running this program will show up. So if we pull that up 1 second, I'm going to literally do this by clicking on this. When I click this text file will be fed to the Python application program, and the display, rather than showing up here, will show up here. So I'm going to keep this here. So let's do this. I want to execute this this code that I just wrote and saved it in example2py. So when I hit run this file, what file? Example2py, and then put the output right here. So here we go. It shows up right here, messed up.
Okay.
Okay. And so most of the time, when you want to do an interactive session, you don't have to go to the command prompt and do this. You don't have to do. So 4, 5 plus 6. If you have your IDE, if you're already using Spyder, you can, if you want to test some line like, hey, in other words, what I was saying earlier was, you don't have to go to a command prompt, start an interactive session, because the Spyder IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, in other words, the IDE is this program that allows you to write code in Python and helps you out. It takes care of doing all of this. It takes care of generating code and all of that. So here I can just do 9 plus 6 is 15. Here I can write print, and this is all the help it's trying to give me. Hello, messed up world. This is actually a better line than before. Or I can go here and change this up. I want to do hello, messed up world. I also want to run this line I want to do 97 plus 3 and assign that value to X. And then it cannot evaluate. Then I want to print X out. So now we have 3 lines of code in our Python program. We're going to save it in example2.py. The first line says, display this hello messed up string on the, and it will display here in this text console. Then after you've displayed that, add 97 to 3 and store it in X, and then print the value, print X. That means X will get evaluated, REPL will run, and 100 will be printed out. So let's see if that happens. So have I saved that? I don't have to, because when I hit run, I think it automatically saves it. Let's see if that happens. And all our displays will show up here, right? So let me run this. Yep, it print out hello messed up, and then it printed out 100, the value that is stored in X. Or, so I just ran this code, print second, these 3 lines stored in example2.py from the IDE by hitting this play button here. Now I'm going to use the same resources. Now I'm going to call the Python application program, feed this as an input to it with these 2 extra lines. And now Python knows, don't start an interactive. When I hit enter, it will see there's an argument, there's an input going in. So it won't start the interactive session, but actually process and execute the code in this file. And it just did that. Okay. Because, and there you go. And I think that's all we have for this one.
Okay.
Yep. And here's a comparison, just to
All
see
right.
how identical they are. I'm
Mhm.
printing, let me make this bigger. In my command prompt, I wrote Python. It started an interactive session, and I wrote print hello world, and it displayed it right there. Here I am inside the, here I'm running the IDE, the Spyder IDE, which is the main, most popular IDE that's used for programming Python, writing code in Python language. And here I'm looking at the console, and it is identical. I wrote print hello world. It spit that out to me. Here I am in the interactive session inside the command prompt, and it did the same thing. These, like Visual Studio Code or Spyder, integrate interactions between the text file, the Python compiler, and where things get displayed. Plus it has a debugger, which allows you to kind of go through in a systematic fashion, trying to figure out where you went wrong. And that concludes our lesson.